I want to die. Is that a good way to start the video? I've got no idea when I'll get this video up. I'd really like to get it up today, the day I'm recording it, Wednesday, but I probably won't because although I got a new computer that's supposed to be literally made to edit, that's why I built it. It's literally built custom to edit. That's all it's designed to do is edit. I can't find a good editing software for it. I tried to get my old one back, but my old one's no longer compatible with the new softwares and everything like that. So that's out of the question. I tried to find a replacement, but HitFilm is very clunky and pretty slow. I'm gonna have to upgrade to Adobe Premiere, which is all right. I know how to use it and I have used it before, but it's just not worth it. This sucks. Let's talk about Godzilla the Planet Eater. Sorry for the delayed upload. It probably won't come out Wednesday. Things I liked. Let's start off on a good note. Godzilla the Planet Eater, by the way, this isn't a full plot-by-plot rundown. That will be saved for the spoiler... no, yeah, well, it will be a spoiler review, but I meant to say the Godzilla-thon review. Yay! You know, Godzilla-thon that'll come out eventually, probably closer to King of the Monsters release date. We're not going to do it now. But what am I talking about? Godzilla the Planet Eater spoiler review. Let's start with things I liked, not going in order, not going in plot order or in order of things I liked to things I disliked. You know, it's not going to be a chain that works down, nothing like that. The first thing that I really liked in this movie was evil Metphies. I really thought I would dislike it. I really did. During the ad campaign, you may remember I kept saying, please don't make Metphies the bad guy. We don't need him to be the bad guy. Don't have Metphies be the bad guy. It's all right. They did it and it actually worked really well. I thought it was going to be much more cliche than it was. I thought his whole thing was going to be like, oh, I love Ghidorah and I'll bring Ghidorah to Earth and all of humanity will perish because we, Exif, hate humanity. He actually had a pretty interesting reason for why he was doing what he was doing. I really liked why he needed Haruo to go through with that. For a lot of people who didn't really understand it, it seems that the reason Ghidorah is the three spaghetti monsters is because he didn't ever get Haruo's sacrifice. If he did get Haruo's sacrifice, if Captain Sakaki did die, then Ghidorah would have formed his ultimate form that we kept seeing hints of throughout the movie. He never got to do that because, of course, Haruo defeats Ghidorah. And I actually really like that, but we'll get back to it, okay? So I really like the Cult of the Exif. I think it was very fascinating. I love the way he enticed people into the cult. That was very well developed. I actually thought every single aspect of Metphies' storyline in this movie was awesome. I liked the twist that we got where the Exif are actually telepaths like the Hatua, and that I believe it's Miana figures it out and she's like, well, you're the only one who can absolutely never open their mouth, and the only way you'd be comfortable doing that is if you're telepath already, if you're comfortable not communicating verbally. And he's like, yes, you're right. Now bow down and praise the golden god. I thought that was awesome. I really liked it. That leads to my next thing that I liked. I thought Metphies versus Miana was pretty interesting. You don't get too much of it, right? They have one minor confrontation and then they have another minor confrontation. They never really get into it, but I still thought it was a very interesting dynamic between the two of them. So I really liked that. Moving way forward in the story, I liked the big twist that we got where Metphies was the one who killed Grandpa in Monster Planet. I did not see that coming. Also, Grandpa, is he actually Haruo's grandpa, or is he Yuko's grandpa, or did Yuko's grandpa also die on that ship? Was he just called Grandpa by everyone? I have no idea the logistics of it. I don't think he's Yuko's grandpa. I think that was just a weird dialogue choice in City on the Edge of Battle. But I thought that was a super interesting twist that Metphies is the one who blew up the ship at the start of Monster Planet. I don't know why no one ever thought of that. We were also fixated on Ghidorah, right? We thought, oh, the ship going down into the planet. It was definitely Ghidorah. But as the series goes on, it's pretty clear from the start that it wasn't just the planet. It was pretty clear that they could have landed on Taui. So I thought it was, you know, we all thought it was weird that the ship blew up in atmosphere, right? And we all thought it might be Ghidorah. I don't know why once we saw visuals of Ghidorah coming down from the clouds in the void and we saw the Bill of Saluto's full storyline play out, we didn't go, all right, now what's left? The Exif, right? We should have put that together. Actually, no, I don't think we should have. I think that was actually pretty well done. They hid that pretty well. I thought that was a great twist. And the final thing that I loved, I thought this was super interesting, and this one, a lot of people hated. I think that's fascinating in and of itself, that I have such a polar opposite opinion than almost all Godzilla fans. Even fans who like the Planet Eater tend to not like this choice. At least from what I've seen, there are a few exceptions to that, but people generally don't like that Metphies is Ghidorah in a sense. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was really cool that Metphies was sort of this avatar for Ghidorah. He was the one who brought Ghidorah into our world. He was the one controlling Ghidorah with the eye. I thought that was super interesting. Don't know what that eye was. He had to cut out his own eye to get it in there, I guess. Where'd he get it from? I don't know. Was he just hanging on to it? Was it in his pocket? And he was like, I'm waiting for my time. I have no idea. But I thought that was really cool because it brought a whole new dynamic to the fight with Ghidorah that we haven't ever seen before. And I like doing new things in Godzilla movies so that they're not repetitive. The Showa era is really good because it's very experimental. Every single Showa era movie seems like it's going for a different thing. You have some that are like James Bond movies. You have some that are like fun comedy adventures. You have some that are straight up horror movies. We don't really get a lot of experimentation in the later Godzilla movies. The Heisei era in particular is very consistent in tone and execution all throughout. They don't try anything that new as the series goes on. Millennium is kind of the same. We have a few exceptions like GMK and Final Wars to an extent. Final Wars is more of like, what if we did Godzilla but it was an anime? And, you know, that's funny saying that now in retrospect when we're actually talking about the Godzilla anime, but back then it was kind of a whole new thing. Then you get Shin Godzilla, which was very experimental, and of course I loved that one. 2014 I liked for the way it was traditional and how it changed the lore and the new things it did, but you understand what I'm saying. I always appreciate them trying to do new things with Godzilla, even if sometimes it doesn't land. In 98, I don't think it works. They tried something new and it failed horribly. Anyways, back to this movie. This movie, I thought the Ghidorah aspect with Metphies and the way they were connected was really interesting because it gives us a whole new dynamic, and that leads to my next favorite part. This is probably my favorite part of the movie, King Ghidorah. I don't know, guys. I thought Ghidorah was probably like my second or third favorite incarnation of the character in this movie, which is surprising because I'm not big on the spaghetti design. I really think that we should have seen the three-headed dragon. I loved everything with Ghidorah. I loved the Showa trills showing up throughout the film as Metphies was looking into his little Galatrium. Is that what it is? Or it's not Gamatron. That little green crystal he has isn't the Gamatron. I think it's Garutrium. Galutrium? I don't know how you say it, but it's like their little device. I loved every time you heard the little Showa Ghidorah trails. I thought the Heisei roars worked pretty well for the actual design of the monster. The horror sequence that plays out when Ghidorah first appears is one of my favorite parts of this entire trilogy, when you get to see Adam watch all of his friends die before he gets killed himself. You also get to see Ghidorah destroy the Aurturm in space. That's a great sequence. Very well done, very intense. I thought that was awesome. The music heightens that. I thought that was great. My next favorite part, and this is actually probably my favorite aspect of Ghidorah, is he is beyond our dimension. This is the first Ghidorah that first of all ever feels like he actually poses a planetary threat. I'm hoping King of the Monsters will be the next one to do that, but this Ghidorah is the first one where I ever watched the movie when I went, he might win, you know, he might actually destroy Earth. Whereas usually it's like, oh dude, he lost to Rodan and Godzilla on Planet X, he's gonna get annihilated fighting all these monsters that Godzilla's leading. Usually you don't feel the stakes. This time you did, or at least I did. I really liked it. I loved the way their sensors couldn't pick up Ghidorah, the way he distorted space-time, the fact that everyone on the Aurturm died about 40 seconds before they actually died, and they knew they were gonna die because of the way he distorts time. I liked the fact that Godzilla couldn't even land a hit on him because he was just that far above us. And the fact that when they're looking at him in the sensors, they can't pick him up. Godzilla's beam fires around him from the gravity distortion. I thought that was awesome. I really liked the alternate dimension approach they took with Ghidorah, where he is an omnipotent being. He literally knows everything. He watches everything, as we find out in the end of the movie. Not only does he watch Haruo until Haruo dies, but he has this influence over Haruo, where him and Metphies kind of invade the guy's mind and just corrupt Haruo himself. I think everything they did with Ghidorah was fantastic and very well done. And that's my last favorite part. I loved the ending that Metphies gives Haruo, where he's like, yeah, I may be dying, but Ghidorah will always watch you. I win. That's really cool. It's pretty frightening, you know, that makes sense why the movie ends the way it does, given that Haruo knows that he will never escape Ghidorah. It makes sense that he does what he does in the ending, which we'll get to, because that's another thing that we'll talk about. And then that leads to the Godzilla vs Ghidorah fight, which it kind of goes in both categories for me, for things I liked and things I disliked. I think the beginning of the fight is really cool when Ghidorah comes down and Godzilla spins around and he's like, well, we're gonna take this guy out, and fires his beam at him, but the beam bends around Ghidorah. I think Everything that happens between Godzilla and Ghidorah when Godzilla's swiping at him and his hands are passing through and his tail's trying to swack Ghidorah and it's phasing right through the body. Ghidorah's all biting onto Godzilla and sucking the energy out. That's all really cool. Then once Ghidorah actually gets a hold of Godzilla, there's like, it slows way down and it's very uninteresting. Definitely like the least interesting kaiju battle of the entire Godzilla franchise. There's nothing really to it. It's just Ghidorah biting Godzilla in 3 places. When he picks him up off the ground, that's kind of cool because the soundtrack is really great. Then the other part that's alright is when Godzilla tries to fire up into Scarlet Godzilla Earth mode and can't even phase Ghidorah at that point. That is where I think the movie should have diverted from what actually happens. I think he should have fired up into Scarlet form. It shouldn't have worked. Ghidorah should have sucked the heat right out of him like what happens in the movie. And then somehow, some way, we can write it in there like maybe when Haruo beats up Metphies a little bit, Ghidorah starts to lose his connection to the void and he becomes more of a mortal creature in our dimension. The golden powers will rub off on Godzilla. Let's bring Golden Godzilla Earth into the series. Don't just have him be an idea that was scrapped and turned into marketing stuff. Actually put him in the movie. Give Godzilla this otherworldly power so that he can go toe to toe with Ghidorah and we can actually have a good kaiju brawl. That would have been awesome. And I seriously do think one epic fight between Godzilla and King Ghidorah at the end of this movie would have saved the entire trilogy in a lot of people's eyes. A lot of people dislike this movie because Godzilla doesn't fight Ghidorah. That's truly what it is, because I've seen so many people say, well, this is my favorite of the trilogy. I think the human stuff is really good in this movie, other than maybe the How to a Girls. But they're like, for the most part, they're like, the human stuff was really good in this movie, especially when compared to the others. It's the kaiju stuff where this falls flat. It doesn't continue where we needed it to go. It doesn't go as far as it should have. And I seriously do think that if Godzilla got to fight Ghidorah fist to fist and it was a really well done action scene, it would have changed people's opinions on the entire series, but that doesn't happen, and so a lot of people hate this series. That's not the only reason why they hate it, but that is a big factor in why a lot of people do hate it. The ending of the fight isn't that good either. I think it ends a bit too quick, but we'll get back to that in a little bit. Besides Ghidorah, this is my other favorite aspect of the movie, Haruo vs Metphies. Very interesting. I did not think they were going to go this psychological battle route the way they did. I thought it was going to be much more of like Haruo will just punch Metphies a little bit, Metphies will overpower him and it'll be a little fisticuff struggle. No, that's not what happens. It is a mental battle and I loved it. Not only is it by far the most interesting and different fight we have gotten in a Godzilla movie ever, we have never gotten a fight like this, but it is also one of the more visually appealing fights because it takes us on such a journey and I loved it. I loved the corruption of Haruo's mind and the mental distortion from his past where he's like, you know, he's reliving his childhood trauma where Godzilla's at the airport killing people and then Metphies shows up to basically be like, I'm guiding your way now and I'm leading you to death. And then Ghidorah shows up at the airport and all of Haruo's memories are getting corrupted. He's basically losing who he is to Metphies. He only gets to regain consciousness at one point when Mothra shows up, which we'll get to, but I thought that was awesome. I really liked us visiting Leland and Yuko again, both dead characters who we get to see in this other world, and Haruo gets to interact with them a little bit. I especially like seeing Leland come back because he is one of my favorite characters from the trilogy. And then we also get to see Grandpa again. Very well done. Lots of great emotional payoff for fans who get to see these characters come back. The atomic bomb was a really cool scene. We've never actually seen the original bombings in a Godzilla movie before, and we kind of get that here. A lot of people say this is overly pretentious, but I think a lot of people are just salty. It's not that bad. Maybe it's just the fact that I genuinely agree with Metphies. I truly do. That sounds weird, right? That sounds like I'm just like I'm a cringy weeb boy. I don't know. When you think about it, Metphies has a point. It's kind of the Thanos argument of like, this universe is finite, its resources finite. At some point, we are going to run this world out of resources. We are going to kill ourselves, and the possible way we're going to do that is with these atomic weapons. That is not pretentious. Shiro Honda made that same point in how many dozens of movies that he directed back in the Showa era? I don't understand when people say, this movie's too pretentious because it shows off the bombing and all this other stuff. I think that just elevates the movie. I don't think that's pretentious at all. And like I said earlier, I want to get back to it. I did really enjoy the part where Ghidorah replaces Godzilla in history. Kind of an Easter egg reference to the 91 movie I thought that was really cool. And probably my favorite part of the Haruo vs Metphies battle is that ultimately the two of them still do care for each other. Metphies kind of raised Haruo on the Aurturm, and Haruo clearly has a relationship with Metphies. They're friends in all 3 movies. In Monster Planet and City on the Edge of Battle, Metphies is something of a mentor to Haruo, so the fact that Haruo now has to kill his mentor, it weighs on him. He doesn't just kill him and be like, I'm the hero. No, he cries about it. He cries, and Metphies holds him in the end. That's how Metphies dies. Metphies holds Haruo. Haruo comes in and gives Metphies a hug and then cries over the fact that he just had to kill his friend. The fact that they kept up with that emotional continuity, the fact that they gave that payoff, I thought was very well done, and I'm glad they did it. Now we got to talk about Mothra, because although it was just a cameo, I thought it was really cool. Not one of my favorite uses of the character. It would have been cooler if we actually got to see Mothra do something, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Or towards the end of the video, actually. I thought the way they handled it was really cool, where Haruo was stuck in this mental state, and then I believe it's Miana goes, oh yeah, well, I know how to solve this, and we have to go talk to my god. And they go and talk to Mothra, and when they put their hands on the egg, her and Martin, Mothra shows up and basically invades Ghidorah's vision. So Mothra and Ghidorah fight a little bit. It would have been cooler to, I guess, see their silhouettes fly at each other, and then you would have had Ghidorah probably ultimately come out as the victor. That would have been a little bit more symbolic of the fact that Ghidorah was this power who is so far beyond our world that not even the god of our world, Mothra, can handle it. And I guess Godzilla is also kind of the god of the earth, but in much more of a physical sense, Mothra would be much more of the spiritual sense. Either way, I really liked the Mothra scene. I thought it was very cool the way Mothra flies through the plane, destroys it, freeing Haruo just long enough for him to speak to Miana and Martin in order to realize what's going on so that he can fight Metphies. Great add in here. And the Mothra design is pretty cool, although we only see it in silhouette. I would have liked to see a full thing because it did look like an interesting design. I really like the wing shape, and it looked pretty massive, so that would have been a cool one to see. I'm sad we didn't get to. Now we got to talk about the ending of the movie. And I did really like the ending of the movie. There's a part that leads up to the ending that I did not like. But the ending of the movie I did like. That is Haruo's sacrifice. I loved it. I loved the fact that, and I'll break this down in a full video on its own, that Haruo realizes that in order to get rid of the nanometal, in order to get rid of his hatred, so that he doesn't send humanity on this path of self-destruction that they're starting themselves on, especially with Martin, he realizes that it has to go. He has to go in order for humanity to prevail. Also, in this last scene, having Metphies and Ghidorah interfere with Haruo's mind is a really cool move on the movie's part because it explains quite a bit. It would explain why Haruo would realize that he needs to go through with this sacrifice rather than what he should have done in this situation, what would have been in character for him to be like, yep, let's rebuild Mechagodzilla and let's go fight Godzilla. Metphies invading his mind does explain why he realizes there's no way out. If we beat Godzilla with Mechagodzilla, Ghidorah will come. Once he realizes that, his sacrifice at the end here does make a lot of sense. And so yeah, he gets rid of himself. He gets rid of himself and the nanometal in order to get rid of the last original lines to humanity, essentially. He does leave behind an unknown number of survivors from the Aurturm. I really have a problem with that. We'll get to it. But he does leave some people behind, although I like the way he does it. I like the way that he, the way he sacrifices himself in the end here, and it's pretty symbolic that the way his parents dies, the way he dies, I don't know. I thought it was good. I really did like it. So now the survivors living on the world, on Earth, are living in peace with Godzilla. They are living in harmony on a level that Haruo never could when he was still alive. That's why he needed to go, because once he's dead, as we've had repeated throughout the movie, Godzilla will no longer be Godzilla. Haruo is the only reason that Godzilla is Godzilla. Without Haruo, Godzilla is just a force of nature. So once Haruo is gone, so are the ties to humanity's hatred for Godzilla. So I really like the way that they tie things up here in the end. And I did really like the theme throughout the movie that humanity will lead to their own self-destruction, that we will create our own end. It's always good to see it in a Godzilla movie. Ties back to that 54 movie. I think this movie handles it very well on a level that a lot of other Godzilla movies don't handle it as well. Now let's get into things that I disliked. A lot of people really wanted to hear me tear into these movies. This is that portion, right? This is when I'm going in on it. I did not like a lot of this stuff. a lot. Like, there's some of this stuff that I'm like, I could have done without it. But then there's some of this stuff that I'm like, I absolutely hated it. Here's the one of them that I could have done without. Yuko's death. And now that sounds weird, right? Because in the other videos I've been saying that Yuko needed to die. And I stand by that. I don't know why she was in this movie. They could have just left her body gone. Why didn't she blow up in Mechagodzilla City? I don't get it. She should have died. She should have been completely gone. They needed her nanometal to restart the Vulture. You could have just had the Vulture be not operational for 1,000 reasons. Maybe it just needed to be charged or something. Who knows? It did need to charge in the last movie, don't forget. So maybe it just needed to be charged or something. We didn't need this complicated Yuko solution or storyline. She bogs down the movie. I get it. Haruo's mourning her, but we didn't actually need her to be there for him to mourn. It makes me uncomfortable that she's still technically alive when he dive bombs into Godzilla and he has her in his arms. Although she's brain dead, she is still alive. You don't know if she could have been brought back. Maybe the Haruo could have sprinkled some of their Mothra dust on her and she could have come back. Maybe you could have had Mothra communicate with Yuko mentally. Maybe it could have brought her back somehow. You have no idea. They didn't try it. So I think it's really weird that Haruo kills himself and the girl he loves in the end of the movie. I don't know. I'm just uncomfortable with the fact that she's still alive when he blows himself up and blows her up with him. It's like he murdered her. Also, keep in mind the ending of Godzilla, the City on the Edge of Battle, ends with Haruo making the decision to stay human. He decides not to turn into the nanometal so that he can save Yuko, right? That's how the movie ends. The reason that's important is because it's not. He should have killed himself. He does it in the end of this movie anyways. Him and Yuko both die doing what? Piloting a Vulture. That's exactly what they were going to do in the last movie. They were both going to kill themselves in the Vultures. I don't know why we needed this complicated Yuko's still here storyline. Either you do it one of two ways, right? Either you do it the way where in the last movie, Yuko plummets herself down to the ground, she blows up or something, she's taken out of it, and then Haruo's like, well, the Vulture plan, in order to dive bomb Godzilla to kill him officially, it won't work with two Vultures. So then he goes and makes the decision to kill Galagu out of anger. That would have also worked. You know, that would have gotten the same thing accomplished, except that you wouldn't have had this overly complicated thing where now Yuko and Haruo are going to die in the exact way that he just tried to prevent in the last movie, although this time it's not going to kill Godzilla in the process. It's like he undid Godzilla's death, and that's all that happened. It's like the only thing that happened is he spares Godzilla in the end of City on the Edge of Battle. So actually, this movie, I feel like, cheapens the ending of City on the Edge of Battle a lot more than I think it meant to, and I don't really like that, because I really do like the ending of City on the Edge of Battle. Next thing I don't like, it's not that bad. This is much more of a thing I could have done without, but it's in here, so okay. All the time spent on the Aurturm, I really didn't need it. The idea of it is really cool. In concept, it's pretty good, but it takes up too much screen time. I like the fact that the Bill of Saludo aren't cool with the fact that Haruo killed Galagu and Belube and destroyed Mechagodzilla City. I like that. I like the fact that the president, I guess that's what we call him, the captain of the ship of the Aurturm, can't make up his mind. He's like torn between this part of his own humanity and if he should do what's good for the group, for everyone on the ship. I like that. I like the guy who's arguing for humanity's survival. I like the exif stuff on the ship, whether he's committing people to the cult. I think that's Metphies' dad, and then he kills everyone on the Aurturm. That's all good in concept, but it didn't need to be in this movie. It weighs down the movie. You could have had an abridged version of it where we have like most of that stuff happen within the course of 5 minutes. It really easily could have. But instead they dragged out throughout the majority of the movie. Now, it doesn't take up the majority of the screen time, but it happens consistently throughout where we're cutting back to it. And it's just not as interesting as the drama happening on Earth. Also, we all know where it's going. It was all in the trailers of the Aurturm blowing up, but whatever. And ultimately that screen time that could have been saved from cutting out pieces of this storyline could have gone to the Ghidorah battle at the end of the movie so that Godzilla and Ghidorah actually get to fight. One other thing that I disliked was the twist where Miana is actually Miana. It was unnecessary. I don't know why we needed it. I really don't get what was wrong with the nice twin from the last movie, the one that saved Haruo, being the one that also loves him in this movie and has that relationship with him. I don't get what was wrong with that. It would have actually made more sense that way. Whereas in this case, the one who was mean to him in the last movie is the one who's like, dude, you want to bang? I don't get it. It was unnecessary and it didn't add anything to the film. This is a big problem. Godzilla kills Ghidorah too quickly. Even I'm willing to admit that, so you know there must be a big problem with it. Not enough screen time went to the fight at the end here. There should have been this great heroic moment when Haruo defeats Metphies, Ghidorah becomes something tangible. He becomes something that has to obey by the laws of our world's physics, and then Godzilla can really go in on him. But in this movie, I guess the idea is Godzilla Earth is so overpowered that if Ghidorah were forced to obey by the laws of our physics, he would lose instantly because Godzilla is just that powerful. But the way it reads is that Ghidorah just retreats. I don't like it. I really think there should have been an extended fight at the end where Godzilla charges up into Golden Godzilla Earth, beats up Ghidorah, and then kills him. That could have been a great way to end it, or not necessarily kill him. I like the fact that Ghidorah is still out there in his other dimension, but you know what I'm talking about. Ghidorah is defeated by Godzilla in the ending. The way it stands, it goes too quick. I don't like that Godzilla can throw down one head on the ground and that defeats it, break the other one's jaw off, and then just shoot the other one once. I don't like that. It ends too quickly. It's unsatisfying. This scene is supposed to show Godzilla Earth's transition from the definitive villain of the series to the defender of Earth. That's kind of what it's meant to do, and he's not necessarily a great defender. He's kind of a jerk, right? It's supposed to be this transitional moment for the character, and it lasts 2 seconds. I really disliked it. Actually, defender of Earth is a bad way to put it. He is supposed to become a chaotic neutral in the end here, where he is literally, that's exactly what he is. He is a neutral. He doesn't want to bother anyone. He doesn't want anyone to bother him, but if you do bother him, he will kill you. That kind of idea. But again, it's supposed to mark this transitional point for the character, and it does not last long enough. This is my biggest problem. If this was cut out, well, it's not actually my biggest problem with the movie, but this is my biggest problem with the ending of the movie. If this was cut out, the ending of the movie would work 1,000 times better. Trust me. We could have gotten some sort of time skip represented by like text on screen or dialogue from the characters. We didn't need the ending montage. I hated it. The music was nothing special. This is XAI's worst song in a Godzilla movie. The sequence is super rushed and needed way more time to develop. This could have been like a whole 30-minute short on its own of what happens in the time skip. It's also super unclear. Like, this is what I was talking about earlier. How many human survivors are there? Where did they all come from? They should have all died on the Aurturm, or they should have all died in Metphies' cult. Where did they all show up from? They just appear. And it's supposed to be like a mark of the passage of time. Now you're seeing people are showing up. You know, the humans, like Martin and Haruo, are banging the Hatua, and they're making babies. But that's clearly not the case, because less than 9 months happens in the time skip, as seen by the fact that Miana is still pregnant when we're done with the time skip, and she got pregnant before the time skip. She got pregnant before Godzilla fought Ghidorah. So I don't understand, where do all these people come from? They just appear. How much time passes exactly? I think it's supposed to be like roughly 6 to 8 months, I think. I have no idea. Where did all the spacesuits come from? If these are supposed to be the children of the Hatua and the humans, where did all the children come from? There's like one scientist. I know that. There's one scientist other than Martin who's alive, because we see him in the ending battle helping out Martin. Where did all the others come from? Where did all the suits come from? I don't get it. Why do we have to have all the weird crossfades? They look really bad. The art is super rushed. It's a cool art style, but it's super rushed, and the way the crossfades make it look, it doesn't look that good. The relationship between Haruo, Miana, and Miana isn't that well developed, and we needed way more time for it. It glosses over that. I think what happens is Haruo marries Miana, who's the one that he banged in the cave, but Miana is one that he had the relationship in City on the Edge of Battle, and she's the one who says goodbye to him ultimately. I don't get it. Does he love her? What is happening with those guys? I don't understand that relationship at all. Here's the next one. The next problem I have. Haruo's kid. Haruo had a kid? What? Do we see the kid in the post-credit scene? I think we do. I think he's the kid with the black hair. But Haruo does not love his kid. He's a pretty bad dad, considering he finds out his wife is pregnant and then he blows himself up. Also, when did him and Miana get married? Why did we gloss over that in the montage? Way too much happens in this montage. Cut the montage, and I actually can get behind the ending of this movie a lot more. Also, Haruo's goodbye is a problem I have. I get it. He says goodbye to Miana, and it's actually a pretty good goodbye. He explains why he needs to die so that humanity can live. Great reasoning. Although he's taken Yuko, he's like, I still love this girl. I married Miana and I had a kid with her, but whatever, I'm out of here. He doesn't say goodbye to his own wife, who's pregnant with his child. He just goes and blows himself up. I guess she's gonna have to find out from Miana, who's like, hey, sister, your husband just died. What? He doesn't say goodbye to Martin. He's kind of a dick to Martin. Martin's got all these plans for the future. He's like, listen, fellas, we're going to build up this new world. It's going to be awesome. We're going to use the nano metal. It'll be great. And then Haruo just blows himself up using the nano metal without explaining anything to Martin. Martin would have understood. He would have gotten it. He understood how the movie was going to end when the movie starts. So I don't know why Haruo couldn't have explained it to Martin what was going to happen. I don't get it. I think way too much glosses over in this last scene. And then here's a minor thing that I would have preferred if during the post-credit scene, which I do like the post-credit scene. It took me a while to get it, but I do get it now. I think it would have been better, though, if we did see the egg hatch. We didn't need to see the Mothra larva come out, just if we saw the egg hatching. That would have been a better ending. It would have made people much more excited. It would have left us on a high note for the trilogy rather than a very weird somber note that it leaves us on. It's supposed to be like a hopeful note that it leaves us on, but it's pretty sad. Now we got a big problem with the movie. This is my biggest problem with the movie. Those damn anime Thots, dude, I hate them. I don't like these characters. Miana and Miana are actually okay. They're okay characters. Everything but the anime Thots. Everything but that is good. If they did not put this scene in the movie, the cave scenes, it would have been great. They would have been fine. All right, so let's run through it. It's super complicated, and the way it plays off, it's got some implications that are really bad. That's not actually the case, but the way you can read it, the way I read it the first 2 times I watched the movie, it's pretty messed up. So the way I read it initially, Miana saved Haruo from Godzilla's attack in Monster Planet. She took him home, and then Miana, because this is what it seems like, right? Because of the dialogue. It's the way that they present the dialogue. I can't say this word without getting demonetized, so we'll just insert the word grape here to represent the word that I can't say, because, you know, I don't want to get demonetized. So we'll keep it filtered, right? So Miana takes it home and she graped Haruo, right? That's what it seems like, and I can explain, okay? First of all, she gets pregnant from him. So we know that happens. We know that happens because during the time skip, she's pregnant and it's his kid. The way she explains it is the way that Haruo is nanometal resistant is because she banged him when he was sleeping, and that rubbed off her dust on him. And the reason you can read it that way, the reason it's very weirdly worded, the reason that it lends itself so much to that idea is because the way she explains it is, I thought you were dead before. I was worried that you were dead, and so I connected life. That's the way she explains it. That's not actually what happened, I hope. We really don't need our main character to go through that with someone who he's supposed to marry and have a kid with. That is a bad way to start off a relationship if she bangs him when he's unconscious. And the way he finds out about it, he finds out she's like, oh, you were worried I died and then you connected life? All right. And then he hugs her, right? That's how it goes. He just hugs her and he's like, oh, well, I guess that's a thing. Oh, that's not what actually happens, though. That's just the way the movie makes it seem. What is she talking about when she says, I was worried you died and I connected life? That's the piece of the puzzle that I haven't been able to figure out. Maybe if I watched it like another 4 or 5 times, I could understand it. But does she actually explain what she's talking about there? Is it ever explained? Or is it just implied that something else happened that I don't get? I don't know, but I can tell you what. I believe what is actually supposed to happen is Miana does save Haruo from the ending of Godzilla Monster Planet. She takes him back to the cave, gets his suit off, and then she puts the dust on him using her hands probably so that there's nothing bad going on. She puts the dust on him so that he's nanometal resistant, and then she goes on with her life. Okay, that's great. Now we have Miana, who comes along and tries to take off the suit and it doesn't come off. This is where we have the whole plot twist where Miana is actually Miana because Miana doesn't know how to take off the suit and Miana did, which is where Haruo's like, oh, I get it. You're the other sister. Okay, I figured it out. What happens after that is she gets naked. She's like, you want to bang? You want to connect life? He's like, nah, I'm good. Life's all connected at this point. I'm winning. All right. I'm still alive. I'm winning. I don't need this in my life right now. I've got a girlfriend. She's been turned into a half robot, but it's okay. And then the next time Miana gets naked, the next time she takes her clothes off and she's all crying, she's like, I was scared and so I connected life. That's the time when they actually do bang in the cave right before Ghidorah shows up, and that's when she gets pregnant. I have problems with that, though. The fact that the scene ends with Haruo hugging Miana, it seems way less like they're actually going to bang after that and more like he feels bad for her, he feels sorry for her, because he hugs her and he's like, it's all right, we're going to get through this together. The reason you know they banged is because when he wakes up from his nightmare, he's shirtless, so you're supposed to be like, oh, I get it. In the time in between there, they banged, right? But I don't know how they could have done it any better, though, because I don't want them to show it. I don't want them to show a shadow of it. I don't want them to do anything more than they did with it. I don't want them to do it at all. I don't know how you could have explained it any better than they did, although they should have had a line of dialogue in there like, I don't know, she got pregnant right before Metphies kidnapped Miana or something. I don't know. I don't know how you could do it any better. I just would have cut this whole subplot. I would have cut the whole she gets pregnant and she wants to bang Haruo subplot. I would have cut it all out because it does seriously sound like she graped him, right? Doesn't it sound like that, where she's like, I was scared when you were sleeping and so I connected life? That's basically what she says to him. I'll have to actually check the exact dialogue from the Japanese version, but when I watched the Japanese version, both times I watched it, I went, when he was unconscious in between Monster Planet and the post-credit scene of Monster Planet, is that when she did that to him? Like, both times. It took until I watched the English dub for me to go, wait a minute, I don't think that's what she's talking about. Which is a bad thing. You shouldn't have a movie that's that vague to where you can make that inference very logically. Maybe I just overlooked the whole thing somehow and it is actually super obvious, and both times I watched it in the Japanese version I just missed a line of dialogue when I was reading the subtitles somehow, and so I missed the whole thing. But like, I even had a conversation with Godzilla 154 right after watching the movie where we were both like, I don't think that's what happened. I don't want that to be what's happened, but it kind of sounds like from the dialogue that's what happened. Here's my last problem with the anime Thots. I don't get why Miana needed to get naked twice. There's no point to it. I'm not a 13-year-old boy. I don't need this stuff in my Godzilla movie, alright? I don't need those anime Thots to be naked to find them attractive or to find them as likable characters or whatever I was supposed to do with them. I thought they were very enjoyable characters, and you know, I get it. They got that like, oh, the whole anime cutesy factor with them. I didn't need them to get naked so that I went, oh yeah, now they're all naked anime Thots and they're hot. I didn't need that. I don't get why we needed that in the movie. I guess because it's an anime, right? And so they were like, well, we're gonna lend ourselves to the anime aspect of it rather than just the Godzilla aspect of it. I didn't need it though. I really didn't. It annoys me that it's in here because it just is not, it's not right for a Godzilla movie. Like, when I think of Godzilla movies, I don't think of like anime chicks getting naked, do I? If I think of nudity in a Godzilla movie, I'm probably thinking of Yuki's ass from Godzilla vs Space Godzilla. That's a dude taking a shower, bro. I didn't need her to get naked twice, and I still find it very odd that Haruo marries Miana, even though he loves Yuko, and he loves Yuko to the point where he sacrifices himself with her. Why did he marry Miana? What was the point of that? He clearly didn't care about her the way he cared about Yuko. The soundtrack for this movie, I want to retouch on this because I didn't do it justice in my spoiler-free review. I said that this was the worst soundtrack that Takayuki Hattori has done for a Godzilla movie since Space Godzilla, and I stand by that. It is. But here's the thing. This soundtrack is one of those soundtracks that complements the movie perfectly. When you watch it with the context of the movie, it is awesome. It's when you watch it outside of the context of the movie that it starts to fall apart. That's when when listening to it, it becomes repetitive and it's not that good. But there are still some songs in here that are awesome. I don't know which song it is that plays when Godzilla's lifted off the ground using the gravity beams from Ghidorah. I don't know when that actually plays, what that song's called, but the song that plays during that sequence is a really cool one, and that's a good one to listen to without the context of the film. Another really good one is the song Attack That Consumes the Earth. Another amazing song by Takayuki Hattori, definitely the standout for this soundtrack. Worship is also a really good piece that plays repeatedly throughout the soundtrack, and I'm a big fan of it. Finally, Live or Die by XAI is the best of the XAI songs we have heard for these Godzilla movies. It is one of the ones that I can listen to over and over again without the context of the movie, without even thinking about the movie, just to listen to it as a song. I genuinely enjoy that song on a level that I do not for either Whiteout or, what was the middle one? I always forget what it's called, and then it comes back to me like right as I'm done recording. I go, oh yeah, that's what it's called. Now I'm trying to think about it and I can't. The Sky Falls. There you go. I had to look it up. I have the XAI album on my phone. It's called The Sky Falls. I'm not big on that one. That's my least favorite of the three, but I really liked Live or Die. And it's also perfect because what happens right before the song plays? Haruo kills himself and then it fades into Live or Die. Great. We should have seen it coming. We should have known exactly how the movie was going to end once that song title was announced, but I didn't. I did not think Haruo would die. Overall, I genuinely enjoyed this movie a lot more than I initially did. This one took a few watches, and I knew this would happen. I think I said this in my spoiler-free review. It always takes these anime movies a few watches, and once I kind of get it, and I'm aware of what's going to happen, and I can start piecing things together and going, okay, all right, I see what they were doing. Only then do I really start to like these movies, but I really did like this film. It's probably my second favorite of the trilogy. I'm struggling because now that I'm trying to think where would I put it with City on the Edge of Battle, because Monster Planet is my favorite, I think. I think I would put this just below Monster Planet. By the time I do Godzilla-thon review of it, I might like it the most of the trilogy. I am really warming up to this movie. I don't love it, but I do really like it. As for this spoiler review, I said I'd give it a rating, so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. That's just a rough verdict though. Wait for the Godzilla-thon, which will come out, like I said, probably in May for the final verdict on the movie. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. I'm sorry this review was so delayed. It's Wednesday night. I'm not gonna get it up today. Hopefully I get it up Thursday. Fingers crossed I can just figure it out with this editing software and I don't have to get Adobe, but we'll see. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. D-Man out. And I'm tired of those anime thoughts.